There is an insane relic in God of War Ragnarok that lets you summon a storm of swords to decimate your enemies. As you can see, they can attack multiple enemies at once while you are attacking too, so it's really powerful. You'll have to put quite a lot of work in to get it though, as it's guarded by some of the toughest bosses in the game, but as you can see, it's totally worth it. And you will also be rewarded with an amazing armor set and more amazing gear, so in this video we'll tell you all about these items and exactly how to get them. This video does contain spoilers for some of the early parts, so if you haven't played the Vanaheim arc yet, which is about 7 to 8 hours into the game, do that first and then come back later. If you've been enjoying God of War Ragnarok and like the content here on the channel, then leaving a like would really help us out. Subscribe for way more videos like this one, and let's go. So what you just saw is the Hilt of Skofnung, and it's probably the most powerful relic in the game. Activating it summons 7 spectral swords in front of you that will start attacking enemies on their own for a couple of seconds, after which they explode. It works great against groups of enemies, as each sword can go after a different target, but it's just as good if not better against bosses, with all the swords hammering down on a single target. I mean, just look at the health bar disappear on this poor troll. Can we even call it a boss fight at this point? Upgrading it also increases the damage of the swords, and while the cooldown is pretty long, by the point you get the hilt, you'll have an amazing armor set to pair with it that lets you make use of this amazing relic way more often. Because this Hilt of Skofnung is a reward for the final step of the Berserker questline, which has you fight some pretty strong bosses. But it will also give you a ton of extra rewards, some of which make this relic even more powerful. In a very similar fashion to the Valkyries from God of War 2018, the Berserkers are spread throughout the realms, but you'll need a specific item in order to fight them, which is a sword hilt you pick up during the main story as you're traveling to Midgard with Freya. Once you've done that, you can insert the hilt in the special gravestones to immediately start your fight with a Berserker. And you can pretty much immediately try it out, as there is a relatively easy fight located in Midgard as well. It's over here on the map, pretty close to the Lake of Nine Realm travel door. As soon as you put the sword in the gravestone, a circular barrier will spawn around you and the Berserker, meaning that the only way to end the fight is if one of you dies. And then at the end of a fight, after you pick up your loot, of course, you can pick up the sword hilt again, which makes the barrier fall apart so you can continue your journey. If you manage to beat this first Berserker, you were already rewarded with one of the armor pieces of the Berserker set, the Waistpiece. I'll talk about the perk in a bit, as it's easier to explain it when you have all the pieces combined. And if you immediately want to continue with the other Berserker fights, head to Svartalfheim for 2 more relatively easy ones. One of them is over here in a boat dock, easiest to reach when traveling from the Nidavelirr realm door, and the other one is all the way at the top over here in the Bay of Bounty. So the area where you blow up the mining rigs for a side quest when you first visit Svartalfheim. Some of the other ones I found relatively easy to beat are Hjalti, who is located over here in the Alfheim desert, so that is the second region you should also have access to after completing the Vanaheim arc, and Svipdagr, whose gravestone you find on a beach very close to the realm door to Freyr's camp in Vanaheim. That last one can be a bit tricky, as he also summons regular enemies to overwhelm you, but if you are able to deal with them, the fight with the Berserker himself isn't all that tough. And in general, you will see that a lot of these Berserkers share similar moves, again very much like the Valkyries from the previous game. I'll give some individual tips for the harder fights we've yet to cover, but there are also some tricks that will help you against pretty much any Berserker. A lot of them have this attack where they jump way up and then crash back down on top of you, marked by this circle indicator on the ground. If you dodge immediately, you will get caught right as the Berserker comes down, so instead you'll want to wait just a bit until after they jump and then roll out of the way to dodge the attack. There's a lot that use parryable ranged and melee attacks, so using the Guardian Shield really helped me out, as you can counter both types of attacks out of a parry. And be wary of some Berserkers that float up to charge a massive AoE, you'll need to hit them out of the sky with a ranged attack in order to stop this attack from going off. And finally, each Berserker also has the ability to break free of a stun lock and just jump away, which you can see when this icon triggers on their health bar. So when it does, just reposition yourself, wait for their next move, and then counter that before continuing your own attack. And while the real treasure is saved for last, there are already some amazing rewards you can get by defeating these Berserkers. We will, by the way, list which boss drops what reward in the video description for if you want to target a specific piece first. You get a lot of upgrade materials, sometimes even frozen or chaos flames to upgrade your weapons, and a set of Asgardian runes for your amulet as well, which when combined together increase the damage of your Frost Awaken and Whiplash attacks based on your cooldown. There's even some amazing attachments for your axe and blades, but we'll cover those more in depth in a later video. The main standout here, however, is definitely the Berserker armor set. It already looks great in my opinion, with this amazing ghostly king vibe thanks to the green spectral glow on some parts, some very cool and intricate details on the arms as well. But even more amazing is that instead of having the same perk on the wrist and waist piece, each part of this armor has its own unique perk. The Waistguard gives you a chance to trigger a soul explosion when you either get hit or when you block or parry an attack. Now the damage of this explosion is minimal, but the bigger benefit is that triggering it will also restore a part of the cooldown of your currently equipped relic. I was a bit confused at first because the description said the relic instead of a, but it does in fact work on any relic, not just the one you get as a reward from this quest. And considering how strong some relics in the game are, it's really a game changer to be able to use them more often. The Berserker gauntlets have the same effect, except instead of triggering on a block or parry, these have a small chance to trigger on any successful attack. So with both pieces equipped, any of your regular combat actions have a chance to reduce the cooldown on your relic. And I'm not sure if this is intended, but if you are using the Berserker armor together with the Hilt of Skofnung relic, the hits from the spectral blades can also trigger the perk on the bracers of the set. So if you are wearing those, there is a high chance that you will significantly lower the cooldown of this relic by simply using it. And when you also add the Berserker's cuirass on top, things get really crazy. Because with it equipped, you gain a massive boost to your melee damage for 15 seconds after triggering a relic. The big downside here is that Kratos will also take increased damage for the duration of this effect, and as you can see here, that really makes a difference. So it's a bit of a risk-reward build, but what I found very useful is to pair this armor set with the Hilt of Halffoot relic, which you get from a main story boss. It is pretty late into the story, but with this relic you trigger a realm shift that slows down time, giving you the maximum benefit from the Berserker armor buff while the enemies are too slow to even hit you. You can even add the emblem of the 9 realms rune to your amulet, which drops from the same boss you get the hilt from to further increase your damage during realm shifts. This tactic really helped me out with some of the tougher Berserkers, so I highly recommend trying it out if you have all the required gear. There are a couple of Berserkers left, and you want to tackle these when you're getting near the end of the story, as they are either very tough or can't be reached until you've progressed up to a certain point. Skofnung in Nidavelirr is one of the latter. He's really easy to find and reach, but the realm door you need in order to get here unlocks very late into the story. This guy uses a lot of Bifrost attacks, which can be very annoying to deal with, but I found that using the Wrath Spartan Rage ability actually cleanses this off, so I used that to counter. Haklanger in Vanaheim also takes a bit of work to get to. You need to follow the Scent of Survival quest in Vanaheim to reach the plains area of the map. Once there, you get a new quest called For Vanaheim, and if you follow the quest marker for that one, you will eventually find this small pool in front of an elevated temple. There are also some enemies there, so it's hard to miss, and then from there you want to take the path to the right of the temple, drop down over here, and then go left, after which you end up at a blacksmith spot, which is also where you can change the time of day. And then at night head south towards the jungle area of the map. You enter from over here, there is a path that leads you into this new area, and once there you will receive a quest to open a dam if you just keep progressing. Then you just need to follow that quest in order to make the river flow again, and after that it's simply a matter of heading west to this area called the Sinkholes, where you are now able to take a boat to reach the plateau of this Berserker. Luckily, the fight with him isn't that challenging. His main gimmick is that he can summon an elemental shield for himself, but it's mostly the fact that it will take you a while to get to him. But the final Berserkers we have left definitely pose the biggest challenge, mostly because they aren't one-on-one fights. In Alfheim, over here in the desert, we have Svipdagr and the Sisters, who are two more mage-like enemies that attack with elemental damage and often from range as well. So my way to make the fight as easy as possible was to focus down on one of these at the start of a fight to kill them as quickly as possible. The Sisters actually share a health bar, so if you kill one, you kill both of them. And then you can give your full attention to Svipdagr, who isn't any more difficult than some of the other Berserkers you fought at this point. And in Svartalfheim, in the mines where you first free Tyr, you find another gravestone. The easiest way to reach this area is from the Arvangar wetlands, where you can take the ferry back to where you exited the mines and take the elevator back down. It can be tricky to find your way back through here again, but when I checked, the map icon for the Berserker gravestone was already on my map, so then you can just pin it with triangle and your compass will show you exactly where you need to go to reach it. This is again a double boss fight, but this time you are up against two full-fledged Berserkers. Again, I found that focusing one down, especially with the gear and tactics I described earlier, worked wonders, as the fight gets much easier if you only need to deal with one of them. And then if you work down the entire list of Berserkers, it it is time to return to where we originally found the sword hilt to face our last opponent, King Rolf. Like Sigrun did with the Valkyries, Rolf will use the weapons and techniques of most of the Berserkers you fought before, so if you've been paying attention to their movesets, you should be fine here. He does switch weapons throughout the fight, which switches up the timing of his attacks, but that is honestly the trickiest part of this fight. Just make sure you bring a resurrection stone, upgrade your gear as much as possible. I did the fight on power level 8, and make sure to use all of your runic attacks and your relic to deal as much damage as possible. And if you manage to finally take him down, you are rewarded with a very wholesome conversation between Mimir and Kratos, and more importantly, the Hilt of Skofnung. And I want to go more in depth on how to best use the items you get from this quest in a build, so stay tuned for that. We also got a ton of God of War Ragnarok videos already on the channel, so just make sure you are subscribed to not miss any content. A like on the video would also really help us out, and you can also check our previous video on the secret armor set that is also really powerful with a full guide on how to get it. For now, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.